And we are back. This video for your orientation will be about parent relationships. I know we've talked a lot about that so far, but I can't reiterate it enough about how important that is. It is important for many, many reasons. A couple of them are that it's just professional. It's just good business to be nice to people, to form a relationship, to make them feel safe. They are dropping off their most prized possession with you. So to have a relationship with them just seems logical. They wouldn't drop their kid off at a stranger's house. The same is true for here. They need to have a relationship with someone before they feel comfortable dropping their kid off. So that's what we strive to create around here. Another reason is because it eliminates a lot of conflict. If you have a relationship with someone, a parent, and an issue arises, it's much easier to handle it than if there's already no communication. So that's just two of the most important reasons, but you can probably think of many more reasons why it's important. Students thrive more when they know their teacher and their parent are communicating. There's just so many reasons. So I am going to be going by my paper because I don't want to miss out on anything. This topic is so important to me. So some of the points during a parent interaction are as follows. As I said in the previous video, we address their parents or people in general by their first name. If you're in too deep and you don't know what their first name is, look on Brightwheel. Now, this is going to require you introducing yourself to people and learning their first name. That's the first step to a relationship. So when you first start in the morning or in the afternoon, whenever a parent comes in, you would introduce yourself. Hi, my name is such and such. I'll be in Carly's classroom. What's your name? That's real basic. So you definitely have to introduce yourself to know their name. But after that point, once you learn them, you will address parents by their first name. You want to talk to parents about issues with their child only if you are not in the classroom around other children or adults. So what that means is drop off and pick up is not a good time to address behavior issues or any other issues the child might be having. You don't want to, in front of two other parents at drop off, hey, Carly she's not been behaving well this week. She's been biting. She's been not listening. That's not the appropriate environment to do that in. So you would want to schedule a time to meet with them, maybe call them during your planning, have a conversation in private, because as we've already talked about, confidentiality is important. So you don't want to do that around other parents. You also don't want to do that at drop off or pickup because you're still responsible for supervising children. And if you have your back turned and you're talking to a parent, which is what you should do if you're talking to a parent, you should be facing them, looking at them. You don't want to have your back to them, but if you're face to face with them, that means you have your back to children, and that's not supervising appropriately. So you definitely don't want to do that. This is just a rule of thumb. It's like the hamburger method. But when you are stating a concern about a child, you have to be careful about how you word it. You don't want a parent to feel like you're attacking them. So you got to be really, creative about your method of addressing that concern. There's a video posted on here on our playlist about the hamburger method and how to address those concerns, but you always start out with two positive things. You don't want them to think you're only talking about the negative. So I always tell teachers, don't wait for something bad to happen to contact a parent. You want to brag on their kids too. Parents love getting messages about how good their kid is doing. We don't want to only contact them when they're doing bad. So if you've done that and you've built that rapport with them, then they're going to take you serious when you say this went wrong. If they never hear from you except when something goes wrong, they're going to feel like you're targeting their kid or you don't like their kid or something like that. So I kind of hit on 2 points there, but tell them the good things too when they pick up. So-and-so did great at circle time this morning. So-and-so helped a friend that was sad this morning. Or, you don't have to only talk to parents when something goes wrong. But when you are addressing a concern, you want to start out with 2 positive things. So it may be, you know, Carly had a really good morning. She was helping her friend. She was sharing. But after she woke up from nap, she seemed like she was kind of in a bad mood. This could be real life because that's how Carly is. Anyway, don't use other children's names. So then you can address the negative behavior, and then you want to also end on a positive. So it's like the bun, the meat, the cheese, the bun. And you don't want to, you want to avoid phrases like I don't know. That doesn't sound like you've kind of thought through the process before you addressed it. So instead of, like, if they say, well, why did she bite? And you say, I don't know, that's not going to give them the peace of mind that they're looking to you for. So you might want to say, I'm not certain of what the situation was when she was biting, but I'll ask the teacher that was with her when it happened, and I'll get back to you. Or I'll, touch base with the other teacher that was on the playground, and we can try to, you want to have all the answers before you address them. But if they ask you a question you don't know, you really don't know the answer to, just say, I'm not sure, but I can find out that answer for you. You just don't want to flat out say, I don't know. And it's, and then give them the responsibility of finding the answers. Conversations at pickup and drop off should be brief. I already touched on that because you still need to be supervising children. So if they come to you and they're, wanting to keep going and going and going and going, which doesn't usually happen because usually people fly in, they're late for work, and then they're ready to get home. So they pick up and leave. But if that does happen, you would just say, I am so thankful that you're communicating with me, and I love your questions, but I really have to supervise children. Is there any way we can schedule a time to meet during my planning, or you could email me or call me? I'll be glad to talk to you, but right now my responsibility is to make sure no one gets hurt. And, and they will respect that. When you also want to listen carefully. Most of the time, in situations like this, parents just want to be heard. They're not necessarily attacking you, even though it may feel like it. They're just trying to vent. Because honestly, they could have just had a bad day at work. They could be arguing with their spouse. They could be tired. They could be sick. And you're just the closest target. So they just want to be heard. So just make eye contact, listen, don't get defensive. That's the worst thing you could do because that's just going to escalate it. When they share their concern with you, it's always a good idea to repeat what you've heard to make sure you heard it correctly. So you might want to say, like you summarize what they said. So you might want to say, what I hear you say is that you're upset that Carly isn't able to stay awake for dinner and seems to be fussy in the afternoon because she's not sleeping at nap time or whatever. Like, you just kind of want to repeat what they said in your own words so they know that you understand their concern. Then you might, the next step would be to state the changes that you think the parent would like to have. So if they have if their issue is that Carly's very ill when she's picked up, then we just rephrased and repeated to them. Now you're going to repeat kind of what they want. So you're going to say things like, so what I'm hearing you say is that you would like for us to make sure Carly lays down for at least an hour at nap time instead of reading a book or whatever. And then follow through. If you tell them you're doing something, if you tell them you're going to do something, you need to make sure you do that. You got to follow through and do it promptly, and then follow up with them after you do it. So I spoke with Carly's teachers maybe a couple of days later. I spoke with Carly's other teachers, and how do you think things are going so far? We've really been trying to make sure she lays down. Have you noticed a change at home? And follow up with that. Make sure that things are happening that you promised them would happen. If you're ever unsure about how to handle a parent and an issue, just see Diana or myself and tell the parent that. Just tell them, I have never experienced this issue before, so let me check with Christy or Diana and make sure I handle it the right way, and I'll get back with you. And I promise they'll respect that a whole lot more than you just ignoring it. Because if you ignore a problem, it's just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse. There are some videos on our playlist that could help with this topic, so make sure you're watching those also. And when we come back, we will be touching on the biting policy.